I should have worn steel instead of silk when Camille Foster invited me to that executive brunch in downtown Chicago. It was late September, and by the third Aperol spritz, she leaned across the rooftop table like a rejected Real Housewife and purred, "You're too reliable to lead Dana. You'd make a great support system." Support! The word hit harder than the autumn sun baking the smoked salmon blinnies. I smiled like someone who just realized the award ceremony was actually a firing squad. Camille laughed at her own line, tapped her manicured nail against her glass, and went back to fishing mint from her teeth like she hadn't just detonated a landmine. Behind my practiced nods and iced chamomile calm, I was counting how many assistants I'd mentored who now had company cars. Camille, freshly anointed COO by way of nepotism, in a last-name merger, had the gall to call me safe. Safe like budget oatmeal, like backup batteries. Like a 43-year-old woman who'd spent 8 years building systems she now planned to disrupt. Also, quick reminder, 97% of people just listen and dip, so hit subscribe. You're not just supporting the story. You're funding strategic chaos. Anyway, back to betrayal. I didn't flinch, didn't fumble, just let her finish her monologue about new energy while stirring the soggy fruit in my drink. I'd heard the phrase before, usually before a restructuring or someone's brother-in-law with a TikTok channel got hired. I raised my glass, toasted her vision, and slid her my 2-week notice like a napkin. No tears, no scene. Just a soft smile and the calm certainty that she'd read it as surrender. What she didn't know, I'd been packing for weeks, not my desk, but files, spreadsheets, audit logs, Slack threads where Camille called one intern cute but tragically dumb. Deleted HR memos I had backups of. I wasn't leaving a job. I was excavating a buried scandal. Her insult didn't surprise me. That's what stung. She never saw me as a threat, just a background character in ballet flats with a perfect attendance pin and a drawer full of antacids. What she didn't realize is some of us don't shout when we're wronged. We architect exits. I wasn't just the glue, I was the blueprint. The reason initiatives launched crises vanished, and she never had to explain operating margin to a podcast host. Let her replace me with someone who says disruption without irony. Brunch ended the way it started. Her giggling, me nodding, and her empire quietly cracking beneath her seat. But this time, I was holding a mimosa in one hand and a printed resignation in the other. I set them both down in front of Camille like quiet offerings to a queen too vain to realize the peasants had matches. Her laugh didn't stop right away. It fizzled out mid-sip. She glanced at the paper, then at me, then back again. "Wait. What?" "I'm done," I said. 2 weeks, Dana. She blinked, tilting her head like I'd just threatened her Pinterest board. "Are you serious as a performance review?" I replied, standing up. "Enjoy the shrimp. Watch the basil." And with that, I left her blinking behind her oversized Gucci shades, trying to figure out how the help had just walked out mid-toast. I didn't look back. You don't look back when you're lighting a fuse. Ever seen a woman clean her desk with the calm of someone wiring a detonation switch? That was me. Thursday morning, fluorescent lights humming like a countdown clock. Everyone thought I was coasting toward a quiet exit. Amy from marketing gave me a tiny succulent and whispered, "You'll kill it wherever you go." The VP of strategy asked if I could loop back later for knowledge transfer. I smiled like a mannequin and returned to exporting select files to a private Google Drive folder labeled Q2 Travel Recs, because nothing says peace like 12 gigabytes of financial inconsistencies and shell intern contracts. Let's be clear, I wasn't stealing, I was preserving. Every deck I'd ghost-written for execs who couldn't spell initiative. Every time-stamped change in the annual report that made Camille's cost-saving brilliance look more like creative bookkeeping. I didn't take everything, just the pieces I built. The ones she buried. The ones that proved I wasn't just support, I was the damn scaffolding under her glass empire. Then I called Lena Cross, my old roommate turned divorce attorney with venom-red nails and a courtroom win streak. Last time we spoke, she'd secured a yacht for a client by leveraging an affair and a badly timed Venmo. She picked up on the second ring. Well, if it isn't my favorite crisis in heels. I've got a situation, I said. It involves misconduct, a marriage, and a brunch. She didn't pause. Go on. While Lena sharpened her legal knives, I started my real inventory. Not gum wrappers or stale farewell cards. This was names, logins, receipts. I booked exit chats, HR finance compliance. The corporate holy trinity. I wore my softest blouse, spoke in warm tones, said, just wanted to offer some closing feedback. They nodded, took notes, and never realized I was taking theirs too. They didn't realize I was also taking their notes. Because if you really listen carefully, people hand you their secrets wrapped in small talk and decaf politeness. One compliance analyst, jittery from her third cold brew, leaned in during my exit chat and whispered, "It's been weird since Camille got promoted, right?" I sipped my tea chamomile naturally. So weird. And then came the call. My phone had a contact saved as Milo's vet. No one ever asked. Milo was imaginary, my ghost cat. The vet, Camille's husband, Reed. He and I had history. Not that kind, but enough. Last spring, during a PR wildfire, Reed was the only executive who treated me like a human being and not a USB drive with anxiety. I saved his number, just in case. No words were exchanged, just a ring. A pause. Silence. He picked up. I didn't speak. Neither did he. But the stillness held weight. When I hung up, it wasn't hesitation, it was strategy. If this were a Netflix drama, they'd call it controlled resolve. In real life, it felt like holding your breath while someone else stepped over a tripwire. Camille thought she'd humiliated me over eggs and smugness. She had no clue she was sipping her final mimosa in a skyscraper I'd quietly wired for demolition. I wasn't finished. I was just getting precise. They scheduled the farewell lunch in the glass conference room. You know, the one fingerprint-smudged walls, fake fern, and a tragic view of the loading dock. Camille stood center stage like a clearance bin talk show host, flashing teeth in a lavender blazer that cost more than my first year of rent. The cake said, "Good luck, Dana," in discount store frosting. Spelled correctly for once, which almost made it worse. Like after 8 years, the only thing they finally got right was my name. The junior VPs lined up one by one to rattle off compliments they clearly Googled en route. "You were like really organized." She taught me Excel. I think twice. She always had gum. They spoke like I was already dead, a cheerful ghost who color-coded calendars and kept the printer jam-free. No mention of the lawsuit I headed off, or the 72-hour pivot that saved Camille's doomed campaign from becoming a headline. Just filler words from men headed for layoffs and women fluent in faking patience. Then Camille took the floor because no tool but her own voice ever got a mic. "Dana's been dependable," she said, dragging the word like it was synonymous with obsolete. "She's the kind of person you can always count on." Camille said, stretching the phrase like dollar store taffy, like Post-it notes. Or decaf. Everyone fake laughed like they were trying to keep their jobs. I sipped my water and briefly imagined replacing her collagen serum with Gorilla Glue. Then she handed me a white envelope, cheap cardstock, no company logo. Inside a $50 Olive Garden gift card. No handwritten note. Just the activation receipt. "Don't be a stranger." She winked. I looked at her and thought, "You don't even realize you're already alone." I stood thanked. Everyone smiled like I just swallowed a thumbtack and said all the right things so no one flagged my exit badge. Then in the elevator, finally alone, I pulled out my phone and recorded a quick voice memo to myself. Not for nostalgia, for evidence. One mimosa, one lie. One deleted report. Timestamp this. While Camille was handing me fake gratitude and expired pasta perks, I'd been planting quiet landmines into the company's shared systems. No malware, nothing illegal, just 3 silent trackers buried in the metadata of a folder she accessed daily, masked as routine reports. If she opened them, and she would, they'd log her IP capture screen activity and flag the exact moment things stopped being deniable. And if you're still here, you already know this wasn't the end, just the blueprint. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what happened next. Because trust me, the fallout was just getting started. Legal wouldn't blink today. But in 6 business days, when the board opened a whistleblower packet with pristine timestamps and direct access logs, they'd care. They'd care a lot. Those trigger files, they'd sing like a gospel choir. I didn't walk out like someone saying goodbye. I walked out like someone pressing detonate thumb tucked neatly in my coat pocket. Everyone thought I was being gracious, mature, the bigger person. They had no idea the storm had already started. Last year, during a marketing disaster that had our CEO twitching, Reed Chandler, the founder's golden boy and Camille's husband was pacing the 12th floor like a man dodging subpoenas. A TikTok influencer had gone viral comparing our campaign to a pyramid scheme with fonts. Camille. She was off-grid at a leadership retreat in Aspen. Reed panicked. The team bailed. I stayed late armed with takeout and a spreadsheet that read like a crisis novel. By sunrise, the campaign was salvaged. The investor calmed. And Reed. He started calling me the one who actually runs this place. He remembered that. So when I texted him last Tuesday from a burner app, just 3 words, "Let's talk soon," he replied in under 10 minutes. Time, place, no questions. We met at half-empty Cafe East Side, the kind of place where the baristas spell your name wrong to feel superior. I ordered peppermint tea. Reed got black coffee, looked like he hadn't slept since tax season. "Didn't think I'd hear from you again," he said, eyes scanning the street behind me more than my face. "You're going to want to see this." I slid the folder across the table like we were doing Cold War spy work over brunch. Inside printed screenshots, payment trails, and a meticulously indexed chart I'd titled The Camille Ledger. Not even joking. It tracked everything: stipends routed through shell vendors, wellness reimbursements issued to interns who never made it past onboarding, and bonus structures so padded they felt more like hush money than merit pay. Reed didn't speak at first. Just turned page after page, his face draining like someone watching the scaffolding of their marriage peel away in silence. "How long have you had this?" he asked. "A while? And you're giving it to me now?" "Because I don't want revenge," I said, sipping my tea. "I want leverage, and I think so do you." He looked up. No smirk, no skepticism. Just something tired like regret in a necktie. "I'm gonna make a call," he said after a long beat. "You still trust Lena with my afterlife?" He nodded. "She's my attorney now." That was it. One sentence. Suddenly, Camille's firewall had a trust fund-sized crack in it. No toast, no hug. Just 2 people in button-downs sipping caffeine and trading chess pieces. Meanwhile, back at HQ, the smallest fissures had started to spread. Camille's Outlook calendar stopped syncing. Her priority Slack threads refused to populate. A presentation she emailed to the board came back corrupted, replaced by an earlier draft complete with her redline edits and passive-aggressive comments in tracked changes. Subtle, but not ignorable, she noticed. Started CCing herself on everything, repeating calendar invites, snapping at IT like they were personally sabotaging her bandwidth. At one point, she called the help desk and whispered, "It feels like the system's turning on me." It was. I hadn't hacked anything. I didn't need to. All I did was activate a small web I'd quietly built over the years. Assistants, developers, sysadmins who either owed me favors or just hated Camille enough to misplace a file when asked. Someone replaced her draft folder. Someone unsynced her Slack history. Someone flagged her Zoom link as phishing. Camille thought she was haunted by software. She was just being haunted by memory. My memory. Someone swapped out her draft folder with a decoy. Someone accidentally unsynced her Slack history. Someone flagged her Zoom link as phishing, sent her straight to voicemail during a major partner call. Camille thought she was being targeted by glitches. She wasn't wrong, just not the kind she expected. The Monday after I left felt like waking up after a storm you slept through, quiet, heavy, and humming with static. I made a French press, fed my non-existent cat for cover, and opened my phone like I was checking the weather, not waiting for the dam to crack. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't even curious. I was ready in that deeply specific way only a woman who's been dismissed for 8 years can be. This wasn't vengeance. It was closure with attachments. And right on cue, It began. Somewhere between 9:11 and 9:13 a.m., HR flagged a new submission through the anonymous reporting portal. Subject line: COO misconduct. Urgent. It contained 7 PDFs, 1 zip file, and a screen recording that opened with Camille saying, and I quote, "Don't forward that to finance. They'll just ask questions." It was the exact video triggered when she opened the decoy folder on the day of my goodbye lunch. The metadata matched her IP, the voice clear as glass, the timestamp smack in the middle of her working hours. HR escalated. With all the classic corporate throat clearing, appears serious. May merit internal review. One board member, the same one who never remembered my name, but once complimented my budget-conscious slide formatting, replied with just 2 words, "Review immediately." And just like that, the mimosa-fueled fuse finally hit the powder. Camille. She thought she dodged a bullet. She strolled in that morning wearing white, actual white, like a walking purity metaphor. Told the front desk she was refocused now that the distraction's gone. Gave someone a thumbs up in the elevator. She thought the glitches were Gen Z incompetence. She had no idea she was already in free fall. She didn't notice legal was CCing each other more than usual. Didn't notice the head of compliance skipped the 10 a.m. stand-up. Didn't even flinch when her email permissions got flaky again. But she did notice when Reed walked in the front door. No badge, no smile. Just a stiff jaw and a manila envelope. He walked past reception like a ghost, with purpose straight to HR. No knock, no pause. And the cameras caught every second. Inside that envelope, a certified statement from Reed's new attorney, Lena Cross, yes, that Lena, plus a formal notice of divorce, and a summary of alleged financial misconduct supported by internal documents. Documents that I, Dana, had come across during my time in the trenches and passed to him. Carefully, quietly, with clean hands and detailed footnotes. The head of HR blinked at the paperwork. "Would you like to sit down?" Reed didn't even pause. "I just wanted to deliver this myself," he said. "You'll want to look into it." Thoroughly. Then he left. No drama, no scene. But by noon, the building buzzed like someone had punched a wasp nest wearing perfume. Camille tried to act calm. She asked for kombucha, asked why legal had locked themselves in a conference room, asked if IT was doing a surprise audit. Nobody answered. Meanwhile, in my new apartment, I refreshed the business news. Nothing yet. Too early. I smiled and added oat milk to my coffee. Storm's here. Let it rain. Camille found out the way most powerful people dread secondhand. Her assistant, poor sweat-soaked Mallory, knocked on her office door mid-Tuesday with that look. The one interns get before telling you your mic was hot on a Zoom call where you called your vendors a clearance rack of fonts. Camille, just wanted to flag something." Mallory held out a printed email. That alone should have been the red flag. At the top, legal separation. R. Chandler, V.C. Chandler. Signed by Lena Cross-esque. Camille's hands trembled as she read. Her face went pale halfway down. She didn't scream, didn't throw it. She just stood, slow and syrup-thick, and muttered, "This is a joke." "Right." Mallory shook her head and backed out like she'd seen this episode before and didn't care for the ending. Camille stormed into HR, demanded answers, demanded to know who approved it. Slapped the letter on the desk like a dead trout. "He's using Cross and Wallace. I blackballed them from this company." The HR director barely looked up. "That's odd. They've had a compliance sub-office here for 3 weeks. We're 5th floor." Camille blinked. "What, you approved the lease?" She hadn't, or she thought she hadn't. But the system said otherwise. Timestamp. E-signature. Even a memo she sent. All legit, except she'd never seen them. By 3 p.m., she'd accused 3 department heads of betrayal, called IT, demanding to know who accessed her files while she was meditating, and discovered a new folder on her desktop, labeled HR Review Final. There it was, right on Camille's desktop. A folder labeled MM Legacy. Access. She clicked. Inside 3 subfolders: onboarding conflict history and red flags. All of them carried her digital signature. All of them were last modified 4 days after I left. That was impossible. Except it wasn't. The system didn't lie. The timestamps lined up. The metadata pointed directly to her machine, her login, her laptop. She called IT. They ran diagnostics. No malware, no breaches, no glitches. Could be user error. One tech offered, oblivious to the fact that he was one comment away from being strangled with a charging cable. "No one accesses my files," Camille snapped. "Not without me knowing." The tech squinted at the folder. "Well, someone did. For most of yesterday." Camille started drifting through the office like a ghost with Wi-Fi, cold, erratic, and glitching by the hour. She paced the halls like they were closing in. Doors closed when she passed. Conversations trailed off. She barked commands. No one barked back. Her power didn't shatter, it frayed. Quietly. Each unraveling thread revealed just how little she'd built herself. Meanwhile, upstairs on the 5th floor, Lena's new office door stayed closed. But the lights were always on. At 8:12 a.m., sharp Camille sat down to approve her weekly bonus. Yes, weekly, because nothing screams leadership like paying yourself every Friday before 9 a.m. She clicked into the finance portal and got the red screen of death. Access denied. She tried again. Refreshed. Restarted. Slammed her mouse like it owed her severance. Then she called IT voice, tight and brittle. "Hi. Says I don't have permission to access the finance directory." A pause. Then, "Yeah, that's correct. Access was revoked. Audit team protocol. Per board directive." "What audit team?" "They said you'd know." She hung up. Dialed Reed. Voicemail. Of course. Because at that moment, Reed was across the city, seated beside Lena Cross, reviewing a multi-tab spreadsheet titled Executive Irregularities. C. Chandler. Source verified, time-stamped, and watermarked by 1EM Dana Kessler. Every missing dollar, every fake intern, every wellness reimbursement billed by boutique vendors that just happened to be CrossFit side hustles. Camille definitely wasn't just mentoring. Lena scrolled calmly through each row. Reed sat silent, staring at numbers that now spelled out the end of his marriage and Camille's title. Lena spoke with the calm of someone who'd already drafted the subpoenas. There's an entire payroll substructure operating under Camille's login, Reed, but the digital signatures don't match. She clicked to the next tab. Ghost accounts. Falsified contractor invoices. An intern program registered to a completely separate LLC owned coincidentally by your wife's yoga instructor. Reed didn't flinch. He simply signed the Declaration of Disclosure and asked, "What time's the board meeting?" Back at Ravelli's HQ, Camille burst into the executive boardroom like a sinkhole in Louboutin heels. "What the hell is going on?" she demanded. 9 board members sat in a stunned semicircle. One cleared his throat. An internal audit has been initiated. For what accounting inconsistencies? Compliance issues. Suspicious digital access. Who initiated it? Her voice cracked. Reed Chandler. The chairman replied. She blinked. My husband. Your co-founder, he corrected. She laughed loud and too long, then slammed her hand on the table. This is a damn witch hunt. You're all just mad I cleaned house while you kept dead weight on payroll. One woman flinched. One man took notes. Someone whispered, "We're recording this." Camille froze. Her face flushed from jawline to cheekbones. She stood there for a full 6 seconds before hissing, "You have no idea what I've done for this place." The chairman responded coolly, "We're about to find out." That afternoon, doors didn't slam, they locked. Camille's Slack permissions revoked. Her expense card frozen. Her executive assistant unexpectedly out sick. Lena's paralegal, wearing the sharpest blazer I've ever seen, began sending HR packets titled Witness Statements Submitted Anonymously. Each told the same story: erratic leadership, verbal abuse, shady expense practices, interns who vanished without contracts and emails that mysteriously never made it to compliance. Some were worded in stiff, careful corporate ES. Others were raw, like someone had waited years to exhale. A few had screenshots. HR read them. Legal read them. The board read them. Camille thought she was the apex predator in a glass tower. Turns out she was just the last one standing with her name on the lease in a trail of gas-soaked breadcrumbs. I watched it all unfold like a fireworks show I didn't pay for, but somehow landed front row seats to. My new apartment sat 5 floors above a quiet coffee shop. And unlike Camille's office, it didn't smell like burnt ambition. No more beige cubicles. No more badge swipes at 7:58 a.m. to avoid a tardiness flag in a system I built. Just a view. A real cat this time, rescued not fictional. And a job offer from a competitor Camille once sneered at as a branding farm for has-beens. Funny thing, those has-beens gave me a signing bonus with more zeros than my last 2 years combined. The call from Lena came just as I was connecting my new Wi-Fi. "It's done," she said. "The board has everything." Everything. A heavy word. In this case, 3 notarized whistleblower statements from current Revelis staff. Full access logs showing Camille logging into dormant payroll portals at 1:17 a.m., screenshots of unauthorized bonuses labeled as vendor adjustments, and the cherry on top, an email thread between Camille and a shell account registered to her branding consultant who turned out to be a CrossFit intern with a burner Gmail and an Etsy shop that sold crystal deodorant. Lena walked into the boardroom like a litigation Valkyrie black folder, color-coded tabs, everything indexed like a war plan. Camille had no idea quiet rage could look that professional. The board didn't say much. They didn't need to. That same evening, Camille received formal notice. Administrative leave. Pending investigation. Effective immediately. No access. No communications. Return all company equipment by 5:00 p.m. She trashed her office in under 12 minutes. Word is, she screamed at a ficus, kicked over her framed Woman of the Year plaque, and told her reflection in the lobby mirror, "You'll regret this." No one asked her who you was. Reed had already moved out, quietly, like a man leaving the site of a controlled burn. No dramatic exit, no suitcase on the lawn, just a stack of documents left on the kitchen counter, labeled Revised Asset Division Proposal, and a note taped to the wine fridge. "It's all yours now." By Friday, the leaks hit the trades. The business blogs had a field day. COO on leave amid internal scandal. Financial misconduct, whistleblower investigation, co-founder, divorce. Revelis implodes from the inside. I read every headline with a quasi-croissant in one hand and a smug little grin on my face. Not because I wanted her ruined. Not really. I just wanted to be believed. Seen. Taken seriously. In the machine I'd oiled for years while someone else wore the crown. Bittersweet doesn't even begin to cover it. Justice is rarely clean. It's jagged quiet and arrives 2 weeks late in a PDF labeled Urgent Internal. Camille thought I'd disappear, that I'd resign, get bitter, and fade into irrelevance. Instead, I became the ghost in her hard drive. And now, she was the one being erased. The glass door still bore her fingerprints when she walked in. No badge swipe this time. No assistant following behind. No collagen-infused latte in hand. Just Camille, wearing last week's blazer and a tight little smile that looked rehearsed in the rearview mirror. The lobby had changed. Subtle, but intentional. No fresh-cut flowers. A new receptionist she didn't recognize. And the company's lobby screen, normally looping stock tickers, displayed a new message in clean sans serif: "Welcome to a new era of compliance and risk strategy." Then, she saw it just beneath the logo, a new brushed steel plaque on the door that once led to her private meeting room: Compliance and Risk Strategy, L Cross JD. She stopped. Breath hitched. For the first time in years, Camille Chandler, the self-proclaimed architect of Revelis' future, felt the crushing weight of irrelevance. Lena Cross looked up from the HR table like she'd been waiting. Camille, she said not unkindly. Camille didn't speak, just dropped her purse, collapsed into the nearest chair like someone whose strings had finally snapped. Lena folded her hands, tilted her head. Calm, sharp. Would you like to discuss your exit strategy? HR didn't flinch. The cameras were already rolling. Camille couldn't answer. Her throat locked around something unspoken. Fingernails dug into her palms. Her gaze dropped to the polished tile where her own reflection stared back like a verdict. Somewhere upstairs, her name was already being scrubbed from the shared drive. Permissions revoked, title rescinded. Not with drama. With surgical precision, the kind she once claimed to embody. She hadn't lost the game. She never understood it. She was the board. Someone else had flipped it. Later that night, as the city dimmed behind glass and silence, Camille sat alone in her once luxury condo. Echoes and emptiness. Her phone buzzed. Once, a voicemail. From a familiar number. She tapped play and heard my voice calm and final. You were right. I wasn't executive material. I was something worse. Pause. Click. No follow-up. Just silence. Because by the time she realized I wasn't after her crown, it was already in my back pocket. Sometimes the most powerful move in a broken system is to document everything and wait. Dignity isn't silence. It's precision. Power built on ego never survives a woman with receipts. If you've ever been overlooked, underestimated, or told to stay in your lane, then you already know silence isn't weakness. It's strategy. I didn't burn the bridge. I documented every splinter and waited for the weight of their ego to do the rest. If this story hit home, drop a comment, tell me what you would have done, or share a time you kept the receipts and made it count. And if you're rooting for women like me, who refuse to go quietly, hit that subscribe button. Let's turn quiet revenge into loud lessons and maybe a few spilled lattes along the way.